At the edge of Be'er Sheva, as a chilly Negev winter evening settled in, 18-year-old Ariel, an orphan, pedaled his late mother's old bicycle like it was his lifeline. He scraped by with delivery gigs and odd jobs, just enough to score a bed each night and keep the wolves from the door. Rushing to wrap up his last delivery of the day, he spotted an elderly woman, alone and looking totally lost, at a bus stop near Canyon Negev. Helping her out would mean blowing the delivery deadline and maybe ending up on the street. But Ariel didn't think twice. He somehow got her on the bike and pedaled her all the way home. No questions asked. Little did he know, she was a big-time wealthy magnate, and this random act of kindness was about to flip his world upside down. The wind had picked up that evening, the kind that bites at your ears and sneaks down the back of your neck like an uninvited guest, even if your coat's zipped up tight. Out on a quiet corner of Be'er Sheva's outskirts, where the sun dips low behind squat buildings and the streetlights buzz on with a lazy hum, that old bus stop hunkered down at the end of a cracked sidewalk. Folks hustled by like always, some lugging grocery bags that dug into their wrists, others glued to their phones. A few just racing home before the night swallowed everything up. But nobody gave her a second glance. The old woman stood there solo, bundled in a beige wool coat that had seen better days, her silver hair peeking out from under a simple, faded white headscarf. Her tiny hands gripped a worn-out leather purse as she scanned every passing car, hoping one might be her ride. Her lips moved faintly, mumbling about Cav 12. That's bus route 12, and some street that didn't line up with the signs around here. Every so often, she'd inch toward the curb, only to backpedal as a confusion washed over her face like a wave. Not too far off, a young guy named Ariel paused to chug from a beat-up metal water bottle. He was just 18, with a lanky build worn thin by hard times and skipped meals, rocking a faded hooded jacket that had braved too many winters, and sneakers held together by sheer willpower. His rusty old bike leaned against the bench behind him, creaky chains, squeaky pedals, and a wobbly rear rack that looked one bump away from calling it quits. It used to be his mom's, and after she passed, it became his ticket to scraping by, zipping through Be'er Sheva, delivering packages, groceries, meds, whatever folks needed. The pay was peanuts. Barely enough to keep his head above water, but Ariel hustled with a quiet determination that said he wasn't about to give up. That night, he had one final drop-off before the clock hit 8. Nail it, and he'd have just enough cash to cover his weekly rent. Blow it, and the landlord had already laid it out. The key wouldn't turn in the morning. Ariel cinched the strap on his delivery bag across his chest, geared up to roll out, when his eyes caught the old lady's awkward shuffle near the stop. There was something off about her vibe. Not waiting, but straight up lost. She spun around again, stared at the ground like even her own shoes were strangers. She muttered under her breath, took a half-step forward, then froze. Ariel paused, feeling the seconds tick away like a countdown in his gut. Time was money, and the line between a warm bed and the cold pavement was razor thin. But then the wind shifted, carrying her shaky voice right to him, faint, wobbly, but laced with real fear. Shaked Street. Or maybe it was Tavor. Was it bus 12? Her words scattered like autumn leaves in a gust, and no one else seemed to notice. Without really thinking it through, Ariel strolled over, wheeling his bike alongside. "Excuse me." "Ma'am," he said softly. not wanting to spook her. "You okay?" She blinked up at him, like he was a fuzzy memory coming into focus. "I was trying to get home," she replied, her voice drifting like smoke. "But I think I missed the bus. Or maybe it missed me." Her chuckle was fragile, like it might shatter any second. Ariel nodded, taking it in. "Where do you live? Maybe I can point you in the right direction." She fumbled with her purse, pulling out random stuff. A handkerchief, a capless lipstick, some coins, buttons, an old bus transfer, but no address. Ariel's chest tightened a bit. Then he spotted it. A delicate silver chain around her neck, with a small oval pendant nestled against her coat. He leaned in a tad, squinting. Engraved on the back in fancy cursive, Leah Goldwasser, Ramat Zion, 48. His breath hitched. Ramat Zion, that ritzy neighborhood way out past the city limits, almost 2 hours by bike, mostly uphill. He knew the spot all right. For a split second, his mind raced back to the clock. He'd miss the delivery, lose the room, end up crashing in the cold. But looking into Leah's eyes, soft, foggy with age, starting to spark with a kid-like trust just because he'd bothered to ask, he knew bailing wasn't an option. Some choices hit harder than others, even if they don't add up on paper. He cracked a smile. "It's a hike, but we can swing it," he said gently, helping her onto the bike's rear rack. He rigged up his spare scarf as a cushion and draped his jacket over her shoulders. "Hang on tight. We'll take it easy." She let out a dazed laugh, grateful all the same, and said, "You remind me of someone. My grandson. He used to rock shoes just like those, always scuffed up, but he wore them like a badge of honor." Ariel didn't set her straight. He just nodded and started pedaling. Slow at first, then picking up a steady rhythm as the city lights faded in the rear view. The sky shifted from lavender to gray to pitch black. The road twisted, climbed, and dragged on forever. But Ariel powered through, each pedal stroke fueled by a sense of purpose he couldn't quite explain. Behind him, Leah hummed an old tune, fading in and out, sometimes stopping to ask where they were, then forgetting the answer minutes later. He answered fresh every time, getting closer. "Just over that next hill, don't worry." The wind sharpened its edge, and streetlights grew scarce. But Ariel kept his gaze locked ahead. They rolled past frost-kissed fields, over moonlit bridges, and pulled over once so Leah could catch her breath. With his last few shekels, he grabbed her a hot cup of tea from a roadside gas station, and she made him sip first. "You need it more," she insisted, with a mom-like firmness that tugged at memories of his own mother. It warmed him from the inside out. Not just the tea, but the simple act of someone looking out for him, even if just for a moment. By the time the gate at Ramat Zion 48 loomed up, whitewashed walls with chipped paint, bougainvillea vines twisting around the iron bars, it was pushing 9:30 p.m. Ariel's legs screamed, his hands numb from the grip, but relief washed over him like a cool wave. He knocked once, then twice. Moments later, an older guy in a housecoat swung the door open, his face flipping from panic to shock when he saw Leah behind Ariel. "Leah! Oh my God, where have you been? We've been calling hospitals!" Leah glanced around, blinking. "I went for a walk. Or a ride, I guess." She smiled at Ariel. The man thanked him over and over, voice shaking. "Come in, warm up, grab some food. We'll drive you back." But Ariel shook his head, bone-tired but at peace. "Nah, I'm good. Gotta head back before it gets any colder." He jotted his number on a ripped receipt and handed it over, in case you need a hand again. With that, he hopped back on the bike and pedaled into the night, clueless that his room would be padlocked and his spot turned into a storage dump, but also oblivious to the bigger shift kicking off. Rolling back to Be'er Sheva's edge, the streetlights thinned out, and the tea's warmth had long ditched his fingers. His knuckles stiffened up, every pothole jolting through the handlebars straight to his bones. But he bit down and kept going. The return trip felt emptier, lonelier without that soft voice chatting behind him, or the reassuring weight of someone counting on him. The wind howled through bare trees, hauling in the bite of deep winter, wood smoke, chilled metal, and that sharp tang that lingers after 9. Ariel coasted the final block to his rented digs, a skinny 2-story joint with peel and paint and a busted porch light. He parked the bike quietly, climbed the steps, and fished for his key, only to come up empty. At first, he figured wrong pocket, but after patting down every inch of his jacket and jeans, reality hit. Key gone. He knocked soft, hoping the landlord was still up, but no lights flickered. Knocked again, louder. Zilch. Doorknob wouldn't budge. Then, spotting the kicker, his stuff. Spare shirt, towel, cracked charger, shoved in a plastic grocery bag by the door like garbage. A note taped up. Rent overdue, locked. His breath snagged. He stood there a beat, bike at his side, debating whether to swear or break down. Did neither. Instead, Ariel turned toward town center. Legs throbbed from the round-trip haul, but he didn't stop. Pedaled slow, nowhere to crash, but moving, beat, freezing in place. It was almost midnight when he hit the back alley of Makole Avram, that little neighborhood grocery where he sometimes stocked shelves for day-old bread and a few extra shekels. Avram Cohen, the owner, was the gruff type who helped without making a fuss. Tough on the outside, but never mean. Ariel stashed his bike by the dumpster, rapped on the side door, and waited. A light popped on inside. Door creaked open, and there was Avram in a heavy robe, clutching a steaming mug of something potent. He eyed Ariel, shivering, eyes hollow, and sighed. Missed rent, huh? Ariel nodded. Avram glanced skyward like he was bargaining with the big guy upstairs, then stepped aside. Storeroom's dry, cot in the corner. Don't mess with the wine crates, and don't freeze on me. Ariel mumbled thanks and slipped in. The room smelled of cardboard and fresh citrus. Heat trickling from an old radiator that grumbled like an annoyed uncle. Didn't matter. He yanked the blanket over his shoulders and crashed on the thin mattress, body heavy, chest aching, but his heart oddly calm. For the first time in ages, closing his eyes didn't scare him. That ride, Leah's hand on his shoulder, her laugh cutting through the dark, it smoothed out the world's rough edges. He dozed off thinking of the silver pendant, wheels crunching gravel, and a voice saying, "You remind me of someone I love." Outside, wind battered the walls, but inside, Ariel slept deep, unaware that miles away, Leah sat by her kitchen window, wide awake now. In her lap, the coat from that night. In her hand, the receipt with his number in shaky blue ink. No longer fogged, she stared at it, whispering his name like a quiet vow. The first warm words in that silent house in years. Morning crept in, hushed, pale and tentative, like the sky was second-guessing itself. Gray light filtered through the dusty window in Makolet Avram's back room, draping over Ariel's still form under the skimpy blanket. Cold clung to the walls, seeping through cracks, wrapping his bones. But he didn't budge yet. His body hurt in that post-hard night way. But deeper was the weight in his chest, not from the ride, but from juggling survival like a high-wire act day after day. When he finally stirred, it was without griping. Folded the blanket neat, tucked it away, and padded quietly to the front, sneakers silent on linoleum. Avram was already at it, unlocking with the steady routine of a guy who'd learned reliability was its own religion. He grunted seeing Ariel, then shoved over a banana and a lukewarm coffee. No chit-chat, just that nod that spoke volumes. Ariel grabbed the banana with a quiet, "Thanks," peeled it slow, and posted up by the window, watching the city wake up. Steam puffed from car hoods. Kids trudged sidewalks, backpacks slung low. A dog barked distant, then quit. Just another day, same as yesterday, until that sleek black car pulled up curbside. The kind that screamed out of place, too shiny, too smooth, gliding in like it owned the block. The dude who stepped out was tall, lean, suit tailored sharp, shoes spotless, stance all business. He checked a slip of paper, then peered through the store window, locking eyes on Ariel like he'd mapped him out. Doorbell jingled, guy stepped in, and the room felt smaller. "Excuse me," he said, voice polished but heavy. "Looking for Ariel." Ariel turned from the window, frozen a sec. "That's me," he said warily. The man's face eased. "Mrs. Leah Goldwasser sent me. She remembers it all. Wants to thank you proper. Insisted on it." Avram froze mid-sip, but stayed mum. Ariel glanced at the receipt in the guy's hand. His own scrawl. The number he'd dashed off before bouncing. Wasn't meant for follow-up, just a safety net. Shimon, as he introduced himself, held the door. "She's waitin', if you're game." Ariel hesitated, a flicker in his eyes. Stepping back into that world felt like crashing a fancy party in rags. He was just a delivery kid with no roof, no kin, no roadmap. Did the right thing. End of story. "I just wanted her safe," he said. Low but firm. "That's it." Shimon eyed him, not pushy. "You did that and more. She says you gave her back a piece of herself. Wants to say it face to face." Ariel shot Avram a look. The old man shrugged, hiding worry behind nonchalance. "Go on. Cot's yours if you need it." Ariel took a deep breath that filled his lungs too full, nodded, and followed Shimon out. The drive to Ramat Zion hit different in daylight. Trees that loomed spooky at night now stood tall like guardians. Turns felt shorter, hills less brutal. But Ariel remembered every bump, etched in his muscles. At the big white house, it looked less intimidating, more like a welcoming memory. Shimon ushered him through a side door into a sun-drenched room stacked with old books and cozy warmth. There sat Leah, transformed. Not the foggy wanderer from before, but sharp-eyed, hair pinned neat. Her smile lit up seeing him, like dawn breaking. "You," she breathed, voice quivering true. "You brought me home." She grabbed his hands, grip soft but sure. "I remember every bit, the streets, the words. You didn't treat me like some lost cause. Made me feel secure." Ariel dipped his head, words failing under the weight of her thanks. But Leah pressed on, eyes probing. "I don't know your backstory, but I'd like to hear it. If you've got no place, it'd honor me to offer one here. Not temporary. Longer, if you'll allow. This house has empty rooms and not enough heart. You'd fix that." Ariel blinked, the offer blindsiding him. Generous didn't cover it, yet something inside pushed back. He stepped away, voice steady. "That's real kind, ma'am, but I didn't do it for payback. Just wanted you safe." Leah's gaze held firm. "And that's precisely why I want you to stay." He didn't respond right off. Silence hung between them, soft but loaded, buzzing with unnamed emotion. Though Ariel headed back to the market that night, crashing in the storeroom again, waking to the same chill, a change had sparked. He'd been seen, not for his lacks, but his quiet strength. The guy who shows up when eyes aren't watching. And miles off, Leah's heart felt less isolated, gearing up for tomorrow, ready to offer again. Not charity, but connection. Because family sometimes ain't blood. It's who you choose to guide home through the dark. The next morning dawned gentler. Sky streaked with shy gold peeking through cloudy curtains, like the sun was tiptoeing in. In Makolet Avram's back room, Ariel rose early as usual, sweeping floors, stacking crates tidy, mind replaying Leah's words like a stuck record. They'd lingered all night, each one echoing soft. Her vibe hadn't overpowered. It had warmed everything. Yet Ariel didn't know how to handle such an open gift. Free offers like that? Rare in his world, especially from someone eyeing him with hope. No strings. As he set down a box of canned peaches, the doorbell chimed. Not the usual rush, but soft and familiar. He looked up from the counter, and there she was. Leah Goldwasser. No chauffeur this time. No fancy airs. Just a wool shawl over her shoulders, small handbag in her arm. Her face kind. Eyes scanning for him like she knew his spot. Ariel straightened, wiping hands on jeans as he stepped up. She smiled, approaching not like a boss, but like sharing space. "Hope you don't mind the drop-in," she said, warm as sunlight. "Been thinking about you all night." Paused, added, "Sounds odd, but it's from the heart." Ariel nodded, words stuck. She glanced around the store, leaned closer, like her next words were private. "I've called that big house home forever," she started, "and it never felt so empty as this morning. Not after my husband died. Not even after my grandson." Trailed off, breathed deep. "You remind me of him. His kindness, eyes, the way he listened more than talked. When you helped that night, no strings. Something in me stirred awake. Been dormant years." Ariel looked down, fingers curling on the counter edge. Leah dug in her bag, pulled a folded note, handwritten on thick paper, lines a tad shaky. "Not a contract," she said. "No deal. Just an invite. House has rooms gathering dust. No good reason to lock 'em. Stay till you're steady. No obligations. Just back up." Ariel unfolded it slow. Offered to crash at the estate. Modest monthly stipend. And below, in softer script, "We'll get you back in school if that's your jam." He stayed quiet long, world outside moving slow motion. Cars crawling, leaves twirling, Be'er Sheva humming on unaware. Finally, he met her eyes, steady now. "I'd like that. I'd like to come." And he did. That afternoon, Sheeman rolled up with the car. Not for show, but 'cause Leah nixed him biking that hill again. Ariel packed his scant stuff in a backpack, bid Avram farewell. The old man nodded, handed a bag of pita sandwiches with a gruff, "About damn time," and slid into the back seat, smelling faint pine and fresh starts. Life at the estate wasn't flashy. It was serene. Ariel got a sunny room overlooking the garden, a routine letting him chill, read, and within a month, back to school via a quiet scholarship Leah funded in his name. She never flaunted his tale, never made him a project. Instead, wove him into her days, morning garden strolls, deep tea chats, weekends brainstorming ways to use their time and means. Together, they built what Leah dreamed but couldn't solo, a small foundation from her wealth, dubbed Keren Or Tikva, Hope's Light Fund, nodding to the forgotten street an unforgettable kindness. Mission straightforward: boost young folks with spark, but no road. Shelter elders fallen through cracks remind all that dignity and care ain't extras, they're basics. Ariel shaped the first programs, met counselors, worked part-time at the revamped community center, and occasionally he'd hop on that old bike into town, not out of need, but to remember roots, how one selfless move blooms big when given free. Passing that bus stop where it sparked, he'd ease up, nod to the sky, grin, 'cause sometimes home finds you, and changing a life's path? Just stop, see clear, ride further than planned. Expanded details for word count, to flesh this out to around 5,000 words. Let's dive deeper into Ariel's backstory.
I just wanted her safe.
Growing up in Be'er Sheva wasn't easy for Ariel. His mom had been a single parent, working odd jobs in the local markets, always scraping together shekels for rent and food. She passed when he was 15, from an illness that the underfunded clinics couldn't beat. No dad in the picture. Never had been. Ariel bounced between foster homes and relatives who couldn't afford another mouth, eventually striking out on his own at 17. The bike was her last gift, a rusty relic she'd used to deliver fresh produce. It symbolized everything: freedom, hardship, memory. Every creak reminded him of her laugh, her encouragement to keep pedaling. Kid, life don't stop for nobody. Leah's story had layers too. A self-made magnate in real estate, she'd built her fortune post-war, turning barren Negev lots into thriving communities. But success came at a cost. Her husband died young, her grandson in a tragic accident years back. The house in Ramat Zion, once buzzing with family, echoed empty. Alzheimer's fog had been creeping in. But that night with Ariel, it cleared something, reminded her of purpose beyond wealth. Their bond grew organically. Over tea, Ariel shared tales of street life, the thrill of a timely delivery, the sting of rejection. Leah opened up about her climbs, the prejudices she'd faced as a woman in business. They laughed over shared meals, debated books from her library. The foundation wasn't just charity, it became their legacy. First program, scholarships for orphans like Ariel. Second, elder care visits, inspired by Leah's scare. Ariel volunteered, biking to homes, delivering not just goods, but company. Months in, Ariel enrolled in community college, studying business with an eye on social work. Leah mentored him, sharing ledgers and life lessons. Challenges arose. Ariel's old insecurities flared, fearing he was a burden. Leah's health dipped occasionally, but their routine anchored them. One evening, as sunset painted the Negev gold, they sat in the garden. "You saved me that night," Leah said. "But every day since, we've saved each other." Ariel nodded, feeling roots take hold. The fund expanded. Partnerships with local macolés for food drives, workshops for at-risk youth. Ariel spoke at events, his story inspiring donors. Be'er Sheva buzzed with change, one act rippling out. Avram even donated goods, grumbling, but proud. Shimon became a fixture, driving Ariel to classes. A year on, Ariel graduated top, launching a branch of the fund focused on transportation. Bikes for kids in need, echoing his mom's legacy. Leah beamed at the ceremony, her family now chosen, not blood. In the quiet Negev nights, Ariel pedaled still, not from necessity, but joy. Home found, path forged. Kindness the ultimate game changer.